Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So in today's video, we will have the summary of the farming results I've had over the last 5 weeks, and basically since my holidays. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. And speaking of which, I'd like to give a shout out to one of my Patreon supporters, Frank Wilson. Thanks for your support. Anyways, as usual with these farming videos, I try to share some of my thoughts and potentially concerns about the game in general as I play through it, and this video is no exception. So of course, if you want to know what I'm working on this month, obviously still running my red and green keys. I am trying to get Serene to 255 light. And the only reason for that is that since Garyu has already gotten his true manifest, I expect that Serene's won't be far behind. And being that AS Lukido as a blunt earth unit has already been out with his manifest, I would like to add someone like Serene to my team to have an all earth blunt team. In terms of red keys, I was actually focusing on finishing the Apocrypha dungeons. And the reason for that is if you are low on materials as well as more likely chronostones, don't forget that by completing the points, it takes a few days to a week depending on how many red keys you want to run, and a little bit of RNG turning on the rare areas. You can farm upwards of a few hundred stones, and if you run both of them, that is the Tower Argentori as well as the Fortress, you can get upwards of, I would estimate, between 800 and 1,000 stones, which is essentially another 10 pulls. So highly recommend you do that. Not to mention, you'll make the hard versions of those super boss fights a little bit easier since you farm the items to build those defenses and make them a little bit more effective. Now back to my thoughts and musings of the video. One thing I have been struggling with is trying to find some motivation to continuing not only creating content, but also to play the game with as much fervor as I used to. And part of the reason, of course, is that the content really has slowed down. That is both a good thing and a bad thing. Now, the good thing, of course, is that for more casual players, such as either myself or maybe a lot of you out there, you don't really have to worry about keeping up with the game. I mean, the game's updates are anywhere between now more like 14 days as opposed to between 7 and 9 days since we've caught up to Japan to an extent. And that way, you don't have to really worry about the game if you're busy with life or school like I was earlier this month, or if you just have other priorities or even other gacha games out there too. Now, the downside to that, of course, is since we don't have a lot of continual content, hey, the excitement factor, pulling new units, doing new fights, exploring new areas, maybe even having new storylines, hey, that does drop as well. So just to keep that in perspective when continuing to play the game, as you know, this game is quite low maintenance. You can do as much as you want, as little as you want. And so I still really do enjoy the game the way it is. Another Eden's design team is quite good, and the game and everything around it, including the gacha. I know that people complain about the pity system, but remember that we do have the chance to upgrade even a 4.5 right away to 5 stars and ASs, providing we keep on grinding and get those much needed materials eventually. And speaking about that, there was a recent Another Eden subreddit thread about comparing Another Eden to one of the newer games out there. I believe it's called Octopath Traveler. And I'll let you go to the AE subreddit and check it out if you haven't already. They do discuss the pros and cons of that newer game versus something like Another Eden. Another Eden is now approaching, what, almost 4 years in global. We're closer to that than you may think. Next end of January should be the 4th year, actually. So time flies when you're having fun. And one of the things they mentioned is that game is really not nearly as respectful of your time. And that's the one thing I've always kind of emphasized with Another Eden in general. The game is extremely respectful of your time. You can, your daily tasks, honestly, if you run your dungeons, all the keys, and you equip even one or more encounter minuses, you can run 4 red keys in like 6 minutes, for example, if you've run the shortest distance, like things like Beast King Castle or other things like that. Even the green keys use 2 at a time. So let's just say 4 green keys. I'll say 3 to 5 minutes if you're really slow and have multiple areas to explore. You're still talking a daily task of like 15 minutes plus your videos and stuff like that. I'll call it 20. Okay, 20 minutes a day. Very, very respectful of your time. Other games, clearly they expect you to play anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. Some of them have to have logins every 2, 3, 4 hours. Not to mention, like I mentioned, versus Another Eden, the Octopath Traveler seems to be not nearly as free to play. I haven't played it myself. I didn't start the game, so I can't comment from personal experience. But the fact that a very close relative of this game, so to speak, with very similar mechanics, having multiple people say that is a little bit less free to play than this game makes me feel glad with my initial decision to kind of play this game, stay on this game, focus on this game, create content for this game, and hopefully share, continue to share my thoughts and opinions about Another Eden in general. All right, so moving to the second part of my musings from GamerDad. Now, related to the free-to-play, platform and how this game is extremely friendly for free-to-play. That is, you don't need any gacha units in game. Technically, you can beat everything with free units. They do some pretty cool collabs, and the most recent set of free units, which is the Chrono Cross units, the Complex Stream units, they are extremely powerful. If you've watched some of my clears or even some of the completely free-to-play team clears out there for even the hardest, most current content in the game, a lot of Complex Stream units are used in there. As the 4 of them synergy-wise, they are extremely awesome. You have Harley essentially able to put up 100% elemental shield against anything in the game. You have Kid, who can apply 50-50 down, 50-50 up, triple debuff for your entire team. One of the only 2 units in the game that can currently do this. The other one being an extremely powerful gacha unit being Orlea. And even Orlea's is not as good. It has to be split. You either have 50-50-50 up or 50-50-50 power int speed down. You have Surge, who can modify his weapon to any element essentially out there. Preemptive pain, some magic things that go through barriers. I mean, he is really powerful. And finally, you have Starkey as a so-called mage, has a counter heal, has status removal, has shields, has dual 35-35 preemptive. I mean, yeah, those 4 units are awesome. I mean, even before when we had things like the Tales of and other powerful units, even the P5 units, they were no slouches in its own right. However, I mean, you have those units and they can do whatever you want. Okay, so just as a quick interrupt here, in this particular PCD clear, you saw that I had a burial cat in the final area, the Barakai village. If you do, press the black cat, you'll auto warp as a successful clear to El Zion. So just for all new members who haven't seen the black cat, make sure if you do see it in Barakai village, press on Vario, it'll send you to the promised land and you'll get your choice of the treaties or codex that you need. Anyways, back to free to play. So yes, we can clear everything with free to play. That's very awesome for the game, right? Well, yes and no. As the power creep on extremely powerful free to play units goes higher, and I honestly think that Kid is much better than even some gacha units out there. She's probably better than, I'll just say as an estimate, 2/3 of the older gacha out there. I mean, I know she's a year old now, but she is like unfair. Really, she is unfair. Even a lot of heavy gacha unit teams use Kid for their triple debuff, and that tells you how powerful she is if she can compete for a roster spot with other gacha units. So unfortunately, with free-to-play power creep, you have 2 things. When so many powerful units are free, sometimes you feel like you don't need to or want to summon on the gacha, which can impact the bottom line of WFS. The other thing too is if free-to-play units are more powerful, guess what? They also have to make gacha units more powerful, which speeds up power creep on that side. And if they do that, sometimes you see more comical, more ridiculous super boss fights, such as what we saw against that new warped Alma super boss. I mean, I struggled with that fight for upwards of a week. Now, granted, I was butting my head against the wall. I wanted to use specific team clear. I really wanted to use a 2-element kind of clear to demonstrate the power of both Crystal Zone as well as maybe other zones out there. And I believe I used Fire and Crystal. Now, after I beat the fight, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube, and I usually do that. I don't watch boss clear fights until I figured out a strategy that worked. Film it, and then go back and see what other people have thought up with. After all, I am a solo artist, so to speak. I don't have a team of people helping me with advanced strats or anything like that. And what I found is, it felt like there's almost like a dichotomy with two different types of teams. You either have an all-free team where you can just do the job, albeit a little bit slower. It's usually a few more turns, but you're always stable. You can either prevent all your damage, debuff the enemy to oblivion, or power up your team fast enough such that you get multiple AF bars. Otherwise, the other thing is, to clear these boss fights in low turn lanes, you need ultra progressive new super meta gacha units as well. And so I see the clears are mostly either all free or all super meta units. And I mean, I guess that's good. The newer gacha units are going to be more powerful. So if you're an older player, or if you're even a newer player who doesn't have a good roster, just by playing for humans and summoning on the newest banners, you're going to get a lot of extremely powerful units to add to your roster. And of course, just a shameless plug, you'll have GamerDad always having those should you summon videos to kind of help you determine if you want to add that unit to your roster. But it just wipes out some of the older units where I had a lot of fun with, if you know what I mean. Like, for example, using RCF and the Coco kind of as a dual team that kind of fits in all elementals team zones, you can't really necessarily use them as easily if the boss makes you heal, makes you remove statuses, hits you multiple times, changes zones, and so forth. The boss's mechanics are getting more ridiculous. Some of it can be even said RNG wise. And so, you know, you may be not able to use all your favorite units that you used to be able to use, because before, what I found is that with boss clears, I could use, you know, 3, 4, 5 different kind of teams. And you actually saw, even on YouTube, a lot of varied teams. Like, for example, you see multiple blunt teams, multiple slash teams, couple elemental teams, and of course you always see the super meta units as well. Now, not so much. Like, I challenge you to look at some of the more recent clears and see what kind of unique clears you see, or is everyone using kind of the same superpowered units out there? And I have to say, unless I'm being extremely prejudiced, I feel it's a lot of either super free or super gacha. So I know some of these thoughts are a little bit controversial, and so, you know, these are just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below what you feel about how I feel about the game. Like, in no way am I quitting the game. I enjoy the game very much, and the amount of time I have to put in, you know, minus all the video time and obviously super boss clears, is not very high. Like, obviously the newest Apocrypha chapters were very long, but on the other hand, you get a lot of story content, all of that. So I will give that to the devs. They spend a lot of time programming it. I get to read through the chapters. I get to learn more about the background of the game, and I do enjoy it that way, as opposed to you know, some of the other games out there. But on the other hand, the power creep is real, and is coming both in the, of course, units, which is good for us, but the power creep is also coming in the difficulty of some of the fights, which is not good for us. Now, spoiler alert, I believe this week we are actually getting a new update with a new gacha unit, of course. And with that gacha unit should be a new series of Super Boss challenges. And so I'm not going to spoil it for you. There is going to be a live stream that Scott, our community manager from Another Global, the official channel, is going to be putting out. And you'll be able to watch that, I think, on October 4th, which is going to be October 3rd my time, as opposed to October 4th Japan time. And so you'll be able to see some of that new content. However, we'll see how that goes in terms of the difficulty, because that series of fights, from my understanding, and I haven't really watched any fights in Japan, I don't actually watch other Japan channels either, I hear those fights are going to be insane, and everyone's going to be using super powered teams. For myself, I hope to be not able to use I hope to be able to use a variety of different teams as opposed to be forced into one or two meta or archetype types of teams. I really enjoy the fact that I could mix and match my roster of units to kind of fight the different challenges, but I really don't want it to be where it's either, man, I can't beat it, I guess I'll have to go for this free strat, or maybe watch someone else's free strat. I mean, we know by now there are there are a couple of channels that focus specifically on free clears. I kind of really do like to use my gacha units. Let's be honest, we save up so many stones, and in many cases for you guys, you actually spend real money on your gacha units. We want to put those awesome gacha units to use and blow the crap out of the water with the bosses. So I hope it's not like, well, you know, you can either rely on the free team or you have to rely on newer units as opposed to relying on in-between slightly older units, which may be fan favorites but may not be meta anywhere. All right, so sorry for all that rambling. If you want me to kind of go into detail more in the future about this topic, I can certainly do so. My friend and I have talked at length about it, but it's just my video to kind of give you a short summary of what I felt about the state of the game so far. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.